Hello and welcome to this Audiobooks Entertained review. Today we're looking at Fire and Blood, written by George R. R. Martin, narrated by Simon Vance and published by HarperCollins Publishers. So I'm a big fan of A Song of Ice and Fire, Game of Thrones, whichever way around puts it. Obviously A Song of Ice and Fire is basically more correct when we're talking about the books. Game of Thrones is more a TV series. I enjoy both and I think that they're both very strong and desperate things to watch. Now, there has been a lot of news about the idea about prequels coming out once Game of Thrones is finished later on, in the middle of or beginning of 2019. We're looking at, George R. R. Martin has mentioned before about making prequel series, and I think that that's something that this book kind of lends itself to. So the idea within Fire and Blood is we're looking at Westerosi history all the way from Aegon Conqueror coming over to Aegon III. Now that basically encompasses a range of about 300 years, and again that's basically, as you can read from the top of the cover there, it says 300 years before a Game of Thrones, so you know exactly what's going on there, so I don't think it's trying to hide too much. Now within there we get a nice little history written in the style of an Archmaester. Now the idea being is that this is George R. R. Martin in the voice of Archmaester Gildan, and then he's translated from Archmaester Gildan back into George R. R. Martin's language. It's a bit convoluted, but I think that style works quite well. What it does is it allows a little bit of play and a little bit of depth coming through. The book is created like a non-fiction book. It does have quite a bit of trying to have sources. Obviously Gildan is one, and we have a jesticle mushroom who's another, as well as a few other sources all thrown in, just to try to idea about trying to build that history, as opposed to just being a purely this is exactly what happened. It does try to twist things a little bit and give you different ideas, and some of them, especially for mushrooms, are a bit salacious, but that kind of gives it a little bit more fun, I think. Simon Vance does do a great job of narrating, but you have to remember this is written in a non-fiction style. Even though it's a fiction book, it is written like a history account, so at points it can be a little bit more dry, especially when we go on through all the names and all the family connections, and that can be quite tough going. And again, I do think that Simon Vance does a great job with what he's got, but it is a difficult book sometimes to understand. What you really want to do is have a line diagram, a pie chart, and write down who's doing what and who's where, just to give you a bit more information. But again, for those definite Westerosi fans, I think that that's pretty much going to be okay. And again, I think that you can learn it, but it's just sometimes can be a bit daunting. All in all, the book lasts for about 26 hours, and that's quite a big chunk of time. And within there, I think it would be better to break it up a little bit. I listened to this kind of over a period of days, but in one batch without anything in between. And I do think that this is kind of the book that would be appreciated more going back through it a bit slowly and back again and back again and back again. Now there's going to be obviously people who go into depth who look at the history and question about why things are in there, and I think that part of it is trying to build and give you more information about the Game of Thrones series, or the Song of Ice and Fire series, such as things like the whereabouts of certain dragon eggs and how they came to be, and as well as things like royal succession, which are quite important, I think, especially as we go through to the later realms of the TV series especially. And all these sorts of things all build up to give you a lovely little picture of Westeros itself. Now, the previous book that in this sort of realm was A World of Ice and Fire, and that was a really good book. It was a bit more gentle in terms of it gave you a longer history and gave you smaller snippets. Whereas here, for instance, the Dance of Dragons, it is a good chunk of time. It lasts about 6 or 7, I think roughly 6 chapters of the before story, then obviously the main story, and then what happened after. So it creates a big lot of time, which again I found fascinating personally, but it may be one of those things that some people may not quite enjoy as much. But personally, I thought that whole part of the tale was definitely worth listening to. Is this an essential reading part for everybody? No. If you're a big fan of Westeros, I think I am. I know I am. Then I would say that yes, it's definitely something worth dipping into. Definitely worth that you'll enjoy. I can't say it's for everybody because again, it is that depth into the series. It doesn't have the fiction fun of obviously the main Song of Ice and Fire series, or the main Game of Thrones stories, But again, I still think that it does do quite a lot. I love the fact that George R. R. Martin is so good at tying up political intrigue and those sorts of issues all the way through, and I think that is something that you can't help but enjoy. So all in all, I do think it's a very good book. I can hardly recommend it. If it piques your interest, I think it will do the job. Obviously, if it's one of those things where you're looking more for stories about the Starks and the Lannisters, it's not that. It is mostly based on the Targaryens with other families coming in and out. But again, I think that you would enjoy it, hopefully. And thank you much for listening. Now, just a little bit of backstory. We're going to be producing videos more like this as well. Or if you're listening on the podcast, this is also a video, which will be on YouTube and Instagram as well, just to try to give you a little bit more idea about where we're going to be. So thank you very much for listening and watching. Do take care and goodbye.